Hey everybody, it's Brian Shannon from AlphaTrends.net. Today's Friday, the 5th of February, 2021, and the markets are back to positive year to date after a strong week. S&P gained close to 5%, as did the NASDAQ, Russell 2000, 7%. Just monster moves we're seeing this year so far. Let's take a look at the charts. Obviously, we're in uptrends. The buyers are in control. Last week, we saw that volume-weighted average price from the November high is where the buyers emerged once again, and just a monster move off of that here in the last few days. We're clearly in a position of buyers in control, and next week perhaps we back and fill a little bit, but you can't argue with the strength of this market in any of these markets. NASDAQ at a new all-time high. The financials are getting close to breaking out here. They're getting a little bit extended, and as I always say, I don't really consider them to be trading stocks. By the way, this video today is sponsored by the microsectors banking ETFs. These are leveraged ETFs. If you do like to trade them, here's a way that you can get long or short leverage. So thanks to our sponsor there. Anyways, back to the chart. The financials, again, they're getting a little bit extended, but they did find buyers also right at that volume weighted average price from the November high and that advancing 50-day moving average. Russell 2000, new all-time highs here as well. Semiconductors lag just a little bit, but they have been our leaders for quite a while, and they're maybe just taking a well-deserved little rest here. They are holding above the rising 5-day moving average and that year-to-date volume-weighted average price. For the buyers to be confirmed back in control, we want to see it back holding above today's high realistically. That would really give the confidence that that has happened. And the biotechs also at another new all-time high here, as I mentioned to subscribers of Alpha Trends yesterday, that new positions should be protected with a stop here right now. And just a great week for stocks. I don't know if you follow what I do on Twitter. On Monday, I posted a video about PRTS, actually on Sunday, and right in here about a potential short squeeze candidate going on. And, it's been a nice move so far in there. I also on Twitter had spoken about WWR, and this one is also a stock that's getting squeezed. The shorts are, that is. The other one that I had mentioned, VBIV, really hasn't taken off quite yet. I'd say keep an eye on this one next week. It's battling with that volume weighted average price from the high of last year, and that started to flatten out, and now it's holding above it. So if this stock can maybe take out today's high next week, I think you're going to see a lot of short sellers that are trapped in there. The one issue is it's VBI vaccines, and I tend to look at the biotech type stocks as riskier, so it's tougher to really get involved with confidence with size for something like that. But even the big leaders, I mean, Apple, still in a primary uptrend. It's right now fighting the volume weighted average price from this peak right here, and I think that next week, if you see a little bit of a pullback and then get going back above these highs, it should be able to continue. Amazon, same story. We saw earnings in there. It broke higher and just kind of consolidating in here right now at this prior band of resistance. So if it can hold in this area and then get back above, probably above today's high with a stop somewhere under here, Amazon looks like it should be able to continue to move higher. I'm looking for another move in Beyond. Last time I had mentioned Beyond, of course, was this Friday right here, the 21st, and that was at 137, I guess, when I had mentioned it, and monster move up to 220. It's consolidating. It's not quite ready yet. There are still a lot of great stocks out there. Some of the ones I'm going to be keeping on for an eye on for next week for Alpha Trend subscribers include ACB. It's not quite ready to buy yet, I don't think. You can see it's undergoing a little bit of profit taking from this high. But if you're interested in knowing exactly how we trade these at Alpha Trends, feel free, of course, to take a 2-week trial, because I give specific recommendations on the days that I consider them to be a trade, as well as, of course, risk management. CRSP is one that's looking good. It's holding the volume weighted average price from that November low, which is also now coincident with the 50-day moving average. And it's still below the volume weighted average price off that peak in the 20-day moving average. So it's kind of pinching between there. But my thought is that if it can get probably above this level here with a stop underneath these recent lows, that it's most likely headed pretty quickly for at least that 180 level. So there's one that we'll be keeping an eye on, as well as DADA. This one has been a little bit volatile. Their earnings have been reported already. Next one's not till June 14th, so that's good to see. But the volume weighted average price from that prior peak, you can see it's been battling a lot, and the range is maybe starting to tighten up a little bit. Now, you have to be aware of the personality of the stock. I talk about that with this one a lot, that we see a lot of gaps, and be very careful on the opens with this stock, because these opening gaps tend to really fail quite often and leave people trapped. So for that reason, if I were to trade DADA, I would do so with smaller than normal share size to compensate for that gappy risk in the personality of the stock. At home is another one that looks good here. Nice looking weekly chart in a primary uptrend. The daily time frame, this prior resistance holding a support right at a rising 20-day moving average. Today it came up to the volume weighted average price from this peak, so I think that early next week, if it does something like this, I'll be looking to buy that one. And today I had mentioned actually on Twitter this Dropbox, and crazy thing is I got distracted for a moment. I posted it on Twitter right here. It was 2377. I think it was right here at this point, and I got distracted and missed that. These are 2-minute candles, by the way. It went from 23.77 to 25 very quickly. They have earnings due next week. If you did get involved in this trade, I would suggest you take a little bit off on the breakout, because a lot of times, when they're extended like this, it's just run from 22.5 to 25, a 10% move, that those breakouts are sold into and get a little bit of pullback. But the weekly chart looks good. The problem is earnings are due on the 18th, so I certainly wouldn't hold it through the earnings if it gives you that opportunity. RXT is another name that I'm looking at for next week. Recent IPO back in August, and you can see that this resistance holding its support along with a rising 20-day moving average. Its average daily volume is 1.6 million shares. Earnings are due on February 18th. When we look at where this stock is now, the 5-day moving average will start to flatten out Monday morning once we get rid of this data right here, because that was 5 days ago. And what we're looking at is the volume weighted average price off of this peak. So I think that if the stock kind of does something like this on Monday, it would be a good purchase here with I would say a worst case stop just underneath this level. But I always encourage people to make the trade their own, regardless of their time frame, what you're looking at. What your personality is in the market versus mine is probably different. I hope so. I never want people to just blindly follow trades, but instead understand the idea why I'm suggesting a trade at a certain time, and then decide whether or not it makes sense to you to get involved personally. That'll do it. Have a good weekend. Thanks for listening.